Tonight, the whole world's watching. Defying authority, new mass rallies in Tehran and calls for an even bigger one. The opposition is marching and the government is cracking heads. I'm Harry Smith. Also tonight, Twitter, texting, and PDAs. The weapons on the street that are connecting a revolution. And why is it that when business goes bad in Iowa, they feel the pain in the Caribbean? Part of our series, Financial Family Tree. Plus, the city that can't afford a party finds a way to celebrate.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening. Katie is off. We begin once again with Iran. There is a feeling something big is about to happen there. The opposition presidential candidate has called for a huge protest march tomorrow in Tehran to press his case that the election was rigged. That's even as the government continues to crack down. Today, it started blocking websites and even accused the U.S. of intolerable interference in its affairs. Through all of this, the rallies continue. Elizabeth Palmer begins our coverage from Tehran.
They barely made a sound, but their message was crystal clear. Wearing black for mourning and green, the color of the opposition, tens of thousands of people obeyed the call of the defeated opposition candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi to demonstrate peacefully. Some carried pictures of those wounded and killed earlier this week when the protests turned violent. Dissent is breaking out all over, even among Tehran commuters on the subway. And on the soccer field, half a world away, Iran's national team captain and several players wore green armbands at a match in South Korea, sending a powerful message to millions of fans watching back home. In spite of the regime's efforts to suppress pictures of the authorities' crackdown, amateur video has now surfaced showing Iran's paramilitary Basij attacking university buildings. And there are also new images of Monday's violence, when protesters attacked a militia headquarters and at least one man was shot dead. Meanwhile, Iranian state TV is running its own pictures of violence, with the protesters denounced as insurgents and agitators. The official line is, all the unrest is the fault of the foreigners. Beyond Tehran, the opposition is rising too. In the south, in Isfahan, pro-Mousavi demonstrators clashed with police, while demonstrations are reported in Mousavi's stronghold of Tabriz and in Mashhad and Yazd. Gradually, powerful figures in Iran's clergy have been taking sides in public. One prominent Grand Ayatollah, Ali Montazeri, said on his website that no one in their right mind would believe this election result. The leadership knows it's got a credibility problem. Today, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, met representatives of the four presidential candidates and told them he would support a partial recount. But it's already clear that won't satisfy the opposition. They're demanding another election.
Tomorrow, Mr. Mousavi has once again asked his supporters to come out in force, this time to mosques across the city wearing black and green, and then later to join a formal march in the afternoon. Harry?
With these protests continuing in the streets in Tehran, what kind of options does the government there really have now?
They are in a very difficult position. On the one hand, there is a national movement, a groundswell of dissent that's not going to go away very easily because it represents years of suppressed anger. On the other hand, they have President Ahmadinejad's supporters, millions of them, who are convinced that their man has won a legitimate victory. And so calling that into question at this stage could be very explosive.
Elizabeth Palmer in Tehran, take care. Thank you so much. About that Iranian claim of U.S. interference, White House spokesman Robert Gibbs brushed it aside today. He said President Obama believes that Iranians upset about the election have a right to demonstrate in peace. This is not the first uprising in Iran. Students last rioted in 1999 and 2003, but those were put down quickly. What's the difference this time? The phenomena of social networks. There's simply no way to overstate their role in the protest movement. Bob Orr continues our coverage.
The Iranian government's crackdown on the media, aimed at choking off protests, has been defeated by computer keystrokes. The internet is awash with anger, fueled by the disputed election. Gunshots can be heard in this YouTube video, which shows an injured protester being carried to safety. On the social networking site Facebook, where Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei appears to have his own page, an opposition page shows demonstrators yelling at police. But the front line in this cyber-driven revolt may be Twitter, where anonymous protesters and sympathizers are trading short messages. This is the first step, one blogger wrote. We stop Khomeini and Ahmadine. Another echoed a warning from opposition leader Mousavi, writing people will howl for the innocent killed on Monday. The impact of Twitter has not been lost on the U.S. State Department, which called on the company to defer maintenance to allow the website to stay up.
We promote the right of free expression. I wouldn't know a Twitter from a tweeter, but apparently it is very important.
Computer forensics expert Gary Warner says he's found evidence that opposition forces are actually using Twitter to do more than pass information. Here you're looking at an actual cyber attack against Iranian government websites, triggered by a mouse click on a link posted on Twitter.
Sitting in your living room or in your office in the United States, you can actually directly involve yourself in the conflict that's going on in Iran.
Iran's government is responding by taking down opposition websites and restricting internet access. Protesters claim some computer equipment has also been smashed. It's impossible to know exactly what is going on in Iran, but accurate or not, information still flows.
It's exceptionally difficult for a government to lock down communications in this day and age with regard to technology adoption.
Cyber experts say government officials cannot shut down all of the communications because their own supporters use the same tools. And they also want to know what the opponents are up to. But there are signs tonight Iran's censorship is spreading and becoming slightly more effective. Harry?
Bob Orr in Washington. Thanks. Steve Grove is the head of news and politics of YouTube. This is such an important threshold moment for YouTube. We think of it as a place where we see funny things or frivolous things. Sometimes you go and see political speeches. But why is this so important right now?
Well, I think the reason it's important is YouTube is the only place that you're able to find this footage. The Iranian government is cracking down on mainstream media presence in Tehran. And so really the only glimpse you're getting into these protests is from regular citizens who are uploading videos that they're taking from the middle of the action straight to YouTube and sharing them instantly with the whole world.
This ends up being a very serious grown-up moment, though, for your organization, because now you literally are part of the worldwide media and part of the news. You're a news portal.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening right now is essentially there's a citizen news bureau on the ground in Tehran that is using YouTube as their broadcasting platform. You're getting really the blood and guts of it, quite literally sometimes, from the streets of Iran.
I think it's important for people to understand that people who are taking these pictures are literally risking their lives to do what they're doing, and YouTube gives them a venue.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible fact. The fact that someone is listening and watching online almost instantaneously makes it relevant for people to take a risk and to upload this footage and share it immediately because someone's listening, and who knows, maybe somebody else can do something, raise pressure internationally. Of course, YouTube's a politically agnostic platform, but in this case, it's being used for very political means, and it's fascinating to see that unfold.
And one wonders if they would be taking that risk if their message wasn't being seen or heard.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine someone taking the risk to upload that footage if people weren't listening on the other end.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet.
It's Steve Grove from YouTube. Back in Washington, President Obama today spelled out the details of his plan to usher in the most sweeping changes to financial regulations since the New Deal 75 years ago.
Millions of Americans who've worked hard and behaved responsibly have seen their life dreams eroded by the irresponsibility of others and by the failure of their government to provide adequate oversight. We don't want to stifle innovation, but I'm convinced that by setting out clear rules of the road and ensuring transparency and fair dealing, we will actually promote a more vibrant market.
Anthony Mason is CBS News business correspondent. The White House says this is their attempt to prevent another financial meltdown like the one we are experiencing right now. Right. How will this plan work?
Well, here basically are the fundamentals of the plan, Harry. First of all, it would give the Federal Reserve greater authority over large financial institutions, thought to be systemically important to the economy. That means those big banks felt to be too big to fail. Second, it would create a new regulatory council chaired by the Treasury Department to identify emerging systemic risks to the economy, like those credit default swaps that helped lead to the subprime mortgage mess. Third, it would set up a new Consumer Financial Protection Agency. This agency would have the authority to approve or reject mortgage products. It would also establish new disclosure rules for home loans, credit cards, and other consumer debts, so you'll actually be able to read and understand what till now has only been in the fine print.
And the critics, of course, have been chiming in all day. Some say it's too much regulation. Some say it's not enough. Can the White House make this a Goldilocks moment? Can it be just right?
Well, the key thing here is this is significant regulatory reform, the biggest since the Depression, no question. But the devil, as always, is in the details, and Congress now gets its hands on this, and it remains to be seen how many teeth they put in this reform.
The other thing that was interesting today was the president seemed to be less critical of Wall Street.
Well, he spread the blame around a little bit more today. There are some things in this that Wall Street is not going to like, but one thing conspicuously missing is any caps on executive compensation. That is something the big banks did not want.
Anthony Mason, as always, thanks so much. One more business note. Chrysler's making progress on the road to recovery, announcing plans today to start building cars again at 7 factories. The assembly lines will crank up June 29th in Sterling Heights and Warren, Michigan, St. Louis and Toledo, as well as 3 factories in Canada and Mexico. There are new clues tonight about what may have happened to Air France Flight 447 last month. Medical examiners say bodies recovered from the Atlantic have multiple fractures of arms, legs, and hips. Experts say that's more evidence the plane broke up in midair. But investigators still cannot say what for sure happened. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, from a basket maker in Iowa to a baker in the Caribbean, surviving members of our financial family tree. On the CBS Money Watch, if there is a silver lining to this recession, it's that inflation has been kept in check. Consumer prices rose just 0.1% last month, and that is in spite of the sharp rise in gas prices. But the truth is, the bad news far outweighs the good. In our series, Financial Family Tree, we've tracked how the recession has hurt people and small businesses from Florida to California, overseas to China, and back home to New York. Tonight, we move on to the Midwest, where Dean Reynolds picks up the story.
All right, thank you so much.
When we met Roxana White, she was optimistic about her gift basket business in Huxley, Iowa. But 15 months after starting it, she's still looking for a profit, while her store is piling up with supply.
What kind of gifts are you looking for today?
The slowdown in her business has had a negative effect on Mike McKernan's company, 333 miles away in Glendale Heights, Illinois.
Our business is down about 25% from last year. All our customers are ordering smaller, being very cautious.
At Imperial Foods, Mike distributes all the ingredients that go into these baskets: the coffee, the biscotti, the pretzels, and rum cakes, to name a few. Business had expanded about 10% annually since 2004, but orders dried up last year, and this year is worse, an expected $300,000 to $400,000 loss. He's had to lay off one warehouse worker, cut back office hours from 40 to 30 hours a week, and hold the line on everything else.
It's our phone bill, our rent, bank costs, any costs that we can, we try and monitor those and reduce those as much as possible.
So now Mike is purchasing less coffee from Sandra Knight, president of the Chicago Coffee Roastery in Huntley, Illinois.
Nobody can afford to be giving out gifts like they were before.
At her 19-year-old enterprise, they roast 20,000 pounds of beans every month. The gift basket business used to account for 1 out of every 4 sales she made. Today, it's 1 out of 10. Plans to expand to an adjacent parcel of land are on hold, and...
Are you hiring?
No, I am not doing any hiring.
Still, she is both bullish and superstitious about the rest of the year.
I am very optimistic. My fingers are crossed.
In the gift basket, the coffee's neighbor is the biscotti from Facet Foods in New York. 8 out of every 10 sales Matthew Weinberg makes go into gift baskets. But this year, his sales have taken a big hit.
Probably about 20 to 30%. There's been a noticeable drop-off.
In a good year, Matthew sells about 100,000 packs of biscotti. Now he'll be lucky to hit 70,000. Enough, he hopes, to make it through the year.
Then after that, I'm going to have to take a good look at the business and really see if it's economically viable to stay in business.
Next to the biscotti, you'll find the mustard and pretzels produced by East Shore Specialty Foods of Heartland, Wisconsin.
We have had growth until this past year, every single year.
First quarter sales were down by nearly 20% from a year ago, or $120,000. And that's put Jerry Meshing's 23-year-old company in something of a squeeze. To avoid layoffs, she's foregoing new manufacturing equipment.
What is most important is that we continue as a good, solid, small company.
Take another look at the basket and you can see problems are not confined to the U.S. The Tortuga Rum Company's rum cake is the #1 export of the Cayman Islands. The cakes may be hot out of the oven, but sales, $20 to $25 million in a good year, are cold, down 30% this year.
We are spending a lot of time putting our heads together. What can we do to try and increase business?
Monique Simmons praises the hard work of her employees.
We have over 100 employees, and without this wonderful team, we could not do it.
But the sad fact is that her team has 40 fewer people today than it did just 6 months ago, a sign of how far and wide the economic ripples can reach, even to a Caribbean island almost 500 miles off America's coast. Dean Reynolds, CBS News, Huntley, Illinois.
And next week, we will take you from the bakery in the Cayman Islands to a clothing designer in West Palm Beach. For more about this series, including previous segments, go to the newly redesigned CBSNews.com and click on the Financial Family Tree. We'll be right back. Most Americans still like President Obama. His approval level remains at 63%. But there are questions about some of his economic ideas, according to the CBS News New York Times poll out tonight. With the unemployment rate at 9.4% and rising, just 27% of those polled say the economy is getting better. That's down from 32% last month. 60% said the president has no plan for dealing with the skyrocketing deficit. Now, an amazing story about a 9/11 hero, a rescue dog named Tracker. Tracker, 15 years old, passed away this spring, but he lives on. His owner says Tracker helped locate the last survivor to be pulled from the World Trade Center rubble. And last year, a California company held a contest offering to clone one winning dog. That dog was Tracker, and today, 5 puppies are running around with his genes. And his owner vows the pups will follow Tracker's footsteps into a life of service. Next, billed as one last victory celebration, but it was so much more. To L.A. we go. Finally tonight, everyone loves a parade, but the one in Los Angeles today for the NBA champion Lakers was a little more special. Bill Whitaker explains.
Despite deficits, budget cuts, layoffs, the City of Angels had a devil-may-care attitude today.
Go Lakers!
Beaten down by recession, lifted up by the NBA champion LA Lakers.
We take our mind off of what's happening in this whole economic crisis, and together we're brothers and sisters right now.
Ricardo Rodriguez brought his son to finally see their favorite team. Do you go to Lakers games?
No, I can't afford them. I wish I could, But you can't afford the parade, huh? Oh, yeah, that's free.
Paraded through downtown, the Lakers were carried on a wave of euphoria from hundreds of thousands of fans 3 miles to the Coliseum, where a capacity crowd, some who waited all night, basked in the glory of their conquering heroes.
Let's hear it again for the MVP of the finals, Kobe Bryant.
This almost didn't happen. Facing a $500 million deficit, laid-off city workers howled at the thought cash-strapped LA would pay $2 million taxpayer dollars for services and crowd control for one of the most profitable franchises in sports. After much hand-wringing, the Lakers coughed up half the money, local billionaires and an Indian casino the rest, saying the city couldn't afford not to celebrate the Lakers.
We estimate it's about $1.5 million generated per game, about $150 million per season.
In fact, the city estimates today's parade, drawing all these people downtown, will generate another $15 million.
We're all going through tough times economically, but but we're showing support for the Lakers because all of us have one thing in common.
And one day when mundane concerns like budget shortfalls seem far away. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
That's the CBS Evening News. For Katie Couric, I'm Harry Smith. I'll see you in the morning on The Early Show. Good night.